lentils,
his
spinach,
heart.
and protein.
The thing about Big Country Man is his heart. You can't fucking shut that heart down. His heart he's got an indomitable spirit.
But here's what I'm saying.
You know, it's not even. I don't even know if it's physically that he takes the shots better than other people. It just refuses to go down. Refuses to stop.
I think your head has to be constructed because your chin gets hit, you go out. So, you know,
well, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, you look at it, he's got a big wide head for sure.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I was watching. His camp, he trains and stuff like that. It's not that hard to get a professional nutritionist in your camp or whatever to bring that weight down and get him to a 2. Can you imagine what he's doing at 205?
He would crush people. But what he has been doing though is he's putting weight on with muscle. He's lifting weights, and that alone is making him lose fat. He's lost a lot of fat.
Yeah.
He's down to 246.
Yeah, and
he was way over at 260. But he could be a middleweight. You know, if he was like a Rich Franklin type dude, they'd want to get the low body fat.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. 6 feet tall. 6 feet tall.
God.
6 feet tall. Look at his frame. That's a 185 pounder. Yushin Okami's a big fucking dude.
He's huge.
You look at him, you think he's a heavyweight. Meanwhile, he cuts weight and gets down to middleweight.
Weird.
But going back to the Diaz Condit fight, so my point about missing things is I watched the fight at home. And when I watched the fight at home, I had a slightly different opinion. When I watched it live, I thought that Carlos Condit won it. And I thought going into the 5th round, I was like, wow, the way this worked. I was saying, you know, in the 4th round, I was like, Condit is winning this fight. And when I said that, I was a little bit out of school because on the scorecards, maybe necessarily wasn't winning it in my head even. But there was a trend in round 3 and 4 where Condit was scoring way more than Diaz was. And that's why I was saying that Condit's winning this fight. Or Diaz, you know, I think that Diaz is losing this fight. I felt like it was moving away from him. And then Nick took his back in the 5th. And so you got to say, man, that's the biggest moment of the fight there.
It was. And by the way, didn't he end with an armbar?
No, he got out of it. No, Carlos got out of it. Carlos is actually pounding on him at the very last second. Took a shot at him, and they actually were in some sort of a scramble where their legs were locked up in like a 50-50. But the bottom line is, when I watched it at home, I gave Nick Diaz round 1, round 2, and round 5. So at home, when I watched it, I thought Nick Diaz won the fight.
Right.
Live, at the cage, I thought Carlos Condit might have edged him. I didn't, you know, I when you're doing commentary, you know, people always say like, oh, you know, like, you know, you like you're watching it and you know you're right there and you're talking about it. That's just as good as a guy who's judging it, but it's really not. When you're judging a fight, you should shut your fucking mouth. You shouldn't be talking.
Right.
When I'm talking, I'm doing commentary. I'm trying to explain things to people, and my mind, the way my mind is working, like I'm trying to explain footwork and angles. I'm trying to explain positions when they go to the ground, especially. I'm trying to like, you know, if you're there with your dad and your dad doesn't know what's going on right here. These guys getting square with each other. You know, I'm there to explain. I'm there to go. No. The right arm is the choking arm. They're like, oh yeah, well, I see what he's doing there with that right arm. He's sneaking it under his chin there. That could choke him. You know, like I'm there to explain that. So while I'm doing that, I'm not doing the most objective job of scoring. You know, a guy scoring the fight. First of all, now thinking today after watching this the Big Country Verdun thing, not only should the judges have monitors, that's all they should be watching. Yeah. They shouldn't even be watching the fight. You should have the judges. They don't even have to be in the same room. The judges don't even have to be cage side. The judges should be in front of a giant ass fucking TV
on a waterbed in a dark room with lava lamps, just having a good time.
Just put a camera on them and make sure they're not beating off.
Yeah, I was going to say,
watching
guys,
the fights.
That'd be weird if you look over and you're like, why are you beating off to the fight?
But Dana White said today that it might be possible for Condit to fight Nick Diaz again before GSP's ready.
Really?
Yeah. Condit's camp, of course, said they didn't want to do it. Right away, his manager said it. But if they offer him enough shekels, he might step up. Well, and plus, if the public wants it,
I want it.
I would love to see it again.
Absolutely.
I think he fought a great fight. But watching it at home, I gave the nod to Nick Diaz.
Well, the question then becomes though for Nick is such a loyal guy to his camp. From what I've heard, you know, I don't want to speak for him, but. He's those guys are so tight. It's one of the other things I love about the guy. Mm-hmm. You know, people say he's a tough, mean guy. I think he's actually probably a very sweet person.
He's a great guy.
He's a great person.
Unless you're trying to fight him.
Right, who has to work himself up to the point where he hates the guy he's going to fight. And then, after he beats guys, he's really cool with them.
Well, it's a little of that, but it's also he's smart. You know, Nick Diaz he might not have spent a lot of time in college.
He's smart.
But he's a smart dude. There's no way you can push yourself the way he pushes himself, like cardio-wise, without being aware of the benefits of that and calculating the benefits of that. So, if you got a guy who's willing to do something, willing to do something that extreme because he knows there's a benefit in it, you don't think he would talk shit because there's a benefit in
Right.
that psychologically?
Right.
So you know, people judge him by that, like, oh, he's a thug, he's a gangster, he's a bad guy.
getting into the
He's
guy's
a
head.
smart dude.
He's
When
very
you
smart.
if you're in a fight with somebody, man, and you hate that guy, then you're all tense and you're fucking swinging for the fences and you're making mistakes and you can't bear to think of this dude beating your ass. You got to kill him, and that's how dudes gas out. And you're a guy whose entire strategy is based on imposing your skill set and your extreme endurance. That's what Nick Diaz has. Of course he would talk shit.
course.
It's like he's making them wear weights. You know, he's making them run with weights
The
on.
greatest thing in the world. Him when the first time Condit did that spin kick, spin elbow, I heard him go, because they asked Condit, and he goes, oh, what are we doing? We're doing spin shit now?
Yeah, he throws
It's the greatest.
kicks like disdainfully sometimes.
He's
He doesn't like he threw a lot of hard kicks at Condit, but sometimes he throws kicks he knows are not going to land.
Give a
He's
shit.
like throwing karate kicks in the air. Like I'm
an
so
insult.
not
It's an
worried
insult.
about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Kate taking shots, going, "What's up, bitch?"
Yeah.
He's such a beautiful, like to
So
me,
much
he's just
fun.
so poetic. Like,
So
it's
fun to
poetic
watch,
me.
and he was super cool after the fight was over. You know, even though he thought that he lost the decision, I'll tell you what, man, I did not know, man. It's one of those fights, like I said, where after it was over, I was like, man, I can't wait to watch this one again.
Yeah.
Because I looked at my Twitter feed immediately, and the Twitter feed was half of it with Condit kicked his ass, half of it was Diaz was robbed, and there was so many fighters that said the same thing. It was really a very interesting fight, and
It comes down to philosophy too, doesn't
Exactly.
it? It comes down to
Yeah.
philosophy. You know, some people will say like GSP. Take GSP. The GSP is very smart and very strategic about looking for where his opponent is weak and
Right.
exploiting that hole.
But
and
at
he'll win
least
fights.
GSP takes guys down, and at least that gives you the opinion, well, he just did control this fucking
Yeah.
guy. What Condit was doing was moving away from an aggressor, and people don't like that.
That's right.
People don't
It's
like
like
that.
Floyd
They get
Mayweather. He's very
uncomfortable.
defensive, very good
Yes.
defensive fighter,
Right.
and that's how you fight Diaz. By
Right.
the way, it seems cutting corners like that and moving to his. I guess he was moving.
I got to
to
be
his-
honest, man. I was,
He's a southpaw.
looking into the fight. I gave Diaz a big advantage. I was like, man, I don't know if Condit's ever fought anybody this hard. And I just look at what Diaz does to everybody, what he does to like Paul Daly, what he did to Frank Shamrock, and I know that Condit is a step above both those guys, several steps above. In fact, I think Condit is elite.
I didn't
but
know
I
how
don't
tall
think
he was
is.
either. He's tall.
Yeah, he's very tall.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I didn't think he'd ever fought anybody with that, that much experience, that much style, the way Diaz fights, that
Yeah.
much aggression.
Yeah.
I was like, this might be a tough fight for him, and I anticipated if I had to bet money on it that he would lose a decision.
Yeah.
And then I was really surprised around the third and fourth round. I was like, man, he is fucking pulling this off.
What would you what is I guess Diaz, if there is a second fight, would Diaz go back and change
I think
his
if there was a
strategy?
second fight, Diaz would fucking sprint at him. He would sprint at him. What different strategy?
Yeah.
What's he gonna do different?
Yeah.
No, he's just gonna
Yeah.
give him less opportunities and just throw himself into the fire more.
But it's hard
Or
when somebody's moving
get
to
him-
your when
Yeah.
you're a southpaw and the guy's moving right, he's cutting that corner
Right.
off. You got to have an answer for that.
Right, but look
That's
how
hard to-
look how easy Nick Diaz got his back. Look how easy he got his back in the fifth round. People don't realize how good Nick's ground game is. Nick's ground game is elite. It
Nobody
really
wants to
is
go to the.
elite.
That's why they stand and
Yeah.
bang with him because they don't want to go to the ground with him.
Exactly,
It's
but I mean, you're
ridiculous.
talking about two guys that have been duking it out for 4 fucking rounds and a half. Okay, they're going full clip. It's a highly anticipated, lot of pressure, and Nick still gets him to the ground, gets his back like that. That's
Crazy.
like you know how hard it is to get a dude down and then get his back in a fucking championship fight that quickly. That was a extreme case. His ground game's nasty,
Yeah.
and I think that he has a big advantage over Condit. I think in that department. I think if they fought again, I think he would probably try to initiate the ground.
Hard to get
quicker.
Condit down because Condit's very.
Mhm.
I think Condit's stronger. It seems like than Nick. I'm probably just
Yeah,
bigger and stronger.
Yeah, he's
and
probably
that's
stronger.
hard to get somebody down like
Yeah,
Condit.
Nick got him down though. He got his
Yeah.
back. And that was an interesting thing. It was like one judge had some ridiculous thing where they had Condit win in 4 rounds. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I could see him. I could
gave
see
him
him
4.
You gave him 4 rounds,
Yeah.
4-1. You gave
Yeah.
Condit 4 rounds. That's
Yeah.
the great Jimmy Burke, ladies and gentlemen. How come I can't see Jimmy Burke on camera? I don't see him on camera.
That's just the yay.
Oh, you're moving it. Is that what you're doing? Oh, we're on a delay. The internet's a delay.
Jimmy, by the way, has mastered the art.
Why did you think that Condit won 4 rounds?
Well, I think we're all in agreement how smart Nick Diaz is. He's a smart guy. He's crafty. He's intimidating.
Right.
And so how smart must Condit be?
Where are your eyebrows, by the way?
Right. I'm sorry?
No eyebrows.
What are your
I have no
He's
eyebrows.
Skeletor.
That's so crazy.
He's
Yeah, I have
Skeletor.
no eyebrows.
It's frightening me.
Yeah.
He frightens kids.
I have, yeah, no, it's I once bet a guy, Wall Street guy, it's a friend of mine, $50 up at Jerry's, that my asshole was less hairy than his wife's.
What?
That's a true story.